directly helped in our community to break the cycle of rental and move them into sustainable homeownership. Lastly, I'd like to touch on the Corporation for National Service and the AmeriCorps Vista program. Currently, Habitat International administers the 6th largest program in the nation with over 485 members, serving 140 Habitat affiliate communities. The program members have touched nearly 50,000 home projects, mobilized over 260,000 volunteers who contributed 1.6 million hours of service. Finally, over the last few years, a shift from low-income home ownership to rental has happened, and I encourage you to consider the programs that make the most important impact on the lives of our citizens and those programs that show success. Thank you for your time today.
Good morning, my name is Greg Coleridge. I'm the director of the Northeast Ohio American Friends Service Committee. Thank you all for coming out. Thanks to our distinguished panel, and thanks to the media representatives who are here. Those representing TV5 in Cleveland. I believe there's a representative of WAKR in the back as well. Thank you. The 2008 global economic collapse was the most recent demonstration that, left to themselves, free markets and the financial sector caused economic ruin and massive social pain. The federal government's response of bailing out the big banks, as well as Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, I believe was misplaced. The economic stimulus was insufficient and funded through debt. Unemployment and underemployment in our cities and communities are still at incredibly high levels, still near Depression-era levels. So many Americans, in fact, have been jobless for so long that the government recently changed how it records long-term unemployment. The housing slump is worse than during the Great Depression. Commercial real estate foreclosures are expected to be the next financial bubble to burst this year or next, as people simply don't have enough jobs and money. As CNN Money pointed out this week, Walmart's core customers and shoppers are running out of money much faster than a year ago due to rising gasoline prices. States and cities are in the worst shape since the Great Depression. Loan loss rates are higher than during the Great Depression. Financial advisor Peter Yastro, a frequent CNBC guest, said this week, quote, "We're on the verge of a great depression, and the Federal Reserve knows it," unquote. The federal government, in the service of we the people, must respond meaningfully to address what I believe is an emergency economic crisis. 3 suggestions. 1, the wars and occupations in Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and yes, even Libya must end immediately. It's time to shut down foreign military bases and installations, to end the U.S. military empire. End funding corporate military mercenaries. And it's time to get real about converting our domestic military manufacturing facilities from producing what in some cases are useless weapons to useful mass transit or energy-saving technologies. We can cut military spending at least 50% and still spend more than any other nation on planet Earth. The House already passed, unfortunately, the Defense Authorization Act for next fiscal year. The Senate, however, is yet to consider it. 2, the Bush-era tax cuts to the super wealthy must end immediately. I'm cutting into my time. Corporate tax breaks in the oil and gas industry and other industries that export jobs must end. Part of the reason for our massive federal debt has been these massive tax cuts. And 3, I've run out of time. It's time to look at solving our debt and unemployment problems by profoundly changing our monetary policy. During the Civil War, President Lincoln created U.S. money called greenbacks as a way to avoid borrowing money from bankers and paying interest. During the Great Depression, more than 100 economists called on President Roosevelt to fund its programs using government-issued money. It was called the Chicago Plan. We need once again, as I conclude, to seriously examining reasserting public control of our monetary system. The greatest federal subsidy of all, the license given to banks to create money literally out of thin air, must end. The U.S. should democratize our money system as stipulated in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, and create $3 trillion in U.S. money to hire hundreds of thousands of people to repair our nation's basic infrastructure, estimated to be $3 trillion. Representative Dennis Kucinich last year introduced House Resolution 6550, the National Emergency Employment Act, calling for just this. I urge Congress, as well as the Senate, to get behind this legislation in this calendar year. Thank you.
My name is Eugene Watkins. Fifty-nine percent of our money goes to the military. Only 4% goes to education and 1% for labor. People have become dependent on the military because that's where all the money is. And we should put more of this money towards education, student loans. Like I heard before, some students graduate college with $40,000 worth of debt. Yet we can't build schools. You know, they're closing schools down left and right. Every year there's so many schools being closed down. Yet, as a soldier, I actually helped to build schools in Iraq, and I have friends who had built schools in countries like Estonia and other, small countries that, because they helped us in a war, we need to use that money for our own schools and our own education. And thank you very much.
Just a reminder that as you complete your testimony, if you have it in written form, you give it to Willie Smith back there. If we could have David Farrell come to the podium, David Shagley, Reverend John Beatty, and Kim N. Wilson come and take seats in the front. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is David Farrell, and I'm an attorney who has been practicing in Ohio, Stark County and Summit County for the past 33 years. But today I'm here as a board member and a volunteer lawyer for the Community Legal Aid, which serves low-income and elderly residents of central and northeast Ohio, including most of the 13th and 17th districts. I would like to share with you some of the good work done by Legal Aid and tell you about some of the challenges we face. The Doherty family is one of those that was helped by Legal Aid in 2010. Angela Doherty and her husband had been married for 11 years when they bought their home in 2001. The family of four loved their neighborhood and life was good. But things changed by June of 2008 when Angela's company closed and she lost her job. After a while, family savings were depleted, and as Angela said, we were rolling pennies and quarters to buy milk. We had 2 kids at home. We were doing whatever we could. Then they fell behind in their mortgage. Angela and her husband applied for a loan modification program but were turned down. Upon asking, she was told that they had been denied due to a clerical error and that they'd be getting paperwork to complete an application for loan modification in the next 30 days. That paperwork never came. Instead, they got a letter from the bank saying that a foreclosure action had been filed against them. Angela, obviously, was frightened and called Ohio's Save the Dream program, and she was referred to Legal Aid. Angela's case was assigned to attorney Carla Bolfer. Together, Carla and Angela reviewed the family's mortgage and financial documents. Carla negotiated with the lender on behalf of the family, and the lender agreed to an affordable plan that would lower the Doherty's monthly payments by about $300 a month. Carla said, the Dohertys really were ideal candidates. They had been doing all the right things and were victims of the recession. In this case, a modification was the best possible outcome for everyone. They get to remain in their home, the bank continues to receive mortgage payments, and the community avoids an empty house blighting the neighborhood. The Dohertys were fortunate to be the beneficiary of our system of legal services corporation-funded programs, which are at the center of access to justice efforts in our nation. Equal justice, or equal access to justice, is essential in our democracy, and legal aid programs are the bedrock on which our national system